Hi everyone. We're back with another update on Profane. Today we're going to talk a little more about the future of Profane, the next steps, and what you can expect. And here with me today is our CEO, Diego. Hi, and Erick, our head of production.
Hi everyone.
We are going to talk a little about refinements, about testing, about new features that are coming. And to start, let's discuss just that, refinements and testing. Di, can you start by giving us an overview of the importance of these refinements and the testing in this phase of development?
Absolutely. The truth is, yes, it's right for us to start testing as soon as possible, always, in the development of any game. The feeling I have is that we are actually behind on the tests. There is a lot of content being added to the game and not enough testing happening. Certainly at this stage of the project, testing is extremely important. Refinements only make sense when we are sure of the functionality that has been integrated into the experience.
Perfect. Erick, what can the community expect from the tests we will conduct? Frequency? What areas will be the focus? How will it be?
In fact, there will be a lot for people to test and experience, especially since it's been a while since we've been closed. So, as Diego has already mentioned, this is one of the reasons we want to resume testing. Speaking of focus, there are many things, so it will depend a lot on the features and functionalities that we will bring at the moment. So at a certain point, we want to focus on the overall experience. There will be tests that are more focused on specific features, perhaps combat with skills as well, or something completely new, proficiency. You can expect that there will be a lot of things, new things, optimized things. And regarding the frequency, it's something we want to have consistently. Everything will depend first on the initial tests that we will conduct. So we will start with a slightly reduced frequency and a shorter duration between one test and another. As we optimize our game, adding new features and additions, we will also be extending the duration of the tests and the days we are conducting them until the moment you will be able to experience Profane all week long.
Test. Let's go. Now let's talk about content production. Everyone is eager to see new content, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the direction we are taking with this content production and how we are balancing new content with improvements to what already exists in Profane?
Certainly, Sarah. Content production is now going to be much more dynamic because until now we were developing tools that make producing content a more practical task within our development team. So most of the time now, the production of new content uses only one team, at least for an initial test, which is the game design team. We don't stop the programmer, artist, or anyone from creating content unless the content has already been validated. This is where the work of other teams comes into play. This accelerates our testing process and the input of new content. When we talk about content, we mean encounters, types of items, NPCs, and new skills. Content is everything, all kinds of content that represent a new system. So, with this new practicality, we can also bring more frequent tests, as Erick mentioned, where the introduction of new content is quick, thus increasing the frequency of tests. So, this will be interesting.
Erick, can you provide a bit more detail about this? Like, what frequency can players expect to see new content from now on?
Of course, this will also vary greatly depending on the type of content. There is a type of content that we can make available more quickly. For example, a skill, something a bit simpler. There are also some contents that we want to handle with a bit more delicacy, something that involves more than one area. So there is a whole process behind it. The idea behind the focus on content in the upcoming semester and in the next few months is precisely because there are many different things that will be added to the game. Each of them has a different production time, and that is what we want to make available for the community to test. In a week, they will test one thing. There are things that will be available in 2 weeks, and some things are a bit further away in a month, maybe in 2 months. At most, in 3 months, there will be a new experience for us to test and have a little fun.
So, Erick, if I understand, some things take more time to be refined, while other things take less time, and we can get those done more quickly. Can you tell between something that is really quick and something that takes longer, and why? Does that take a bit more time?
For sure. So the time it takes to be refined, to work on something really depends on what needs to be done, right? What we need to work on. That's why it's very important for us to resume testing now, so we can receive feedback from the community, understand what is pleasing and what we need to work on. I can give several clear examples here of things that are very simple to resolve. So, for example, any issue with the mechanics of a skill, something related to visual effects, or even sound effects as well. So these are simple things. They are things that we usually don't take more than a week to work on, to develop. On the other hand, there are things that are more complicated due to the complexity of that type of content. This is the case with a house, for example, which is a construction that has a greater complexity in producing that item. It has several particularities that need to be addressed. It also depends on the problem occurring in a house, right? So if it's a collision problem, it's simpler. But if it is a more structural problem where we need to adjust the app's structure, go back to production, conduct testing and validation, then that is something that will take a bit longer. We will probably need more dedication there.
And now moving on to new features and infrastructure. What can you tell us about the new features we are planning? How are we improving the infrastructure in the game? How is this looking in the long term?
We now have a plan to conduct a lot of testing, as we have already mentioned, and this will greatly influence which of our internal tools we have, for example, for content production, that we need to improve. So, as we test and see what the limits of experience we can achieve are, and the variations we can create with the types of content we are prepared to develop, we also understand how we can switch some toggles in our creation tools and make it possible for us to create something new. Depending on the types of interactions that the player can have with the world, we always begin to discover limits. Our commitment to the RPG freedom of Profane drives us to always take an extra step in terms of quantities, variations, possibilities for interaction, combinations, and actions that players can take within the world. We have a lot of refinement to do with our tools in order to really bring new features to the game.
Erick, with all of this, can you say how the player will feel the impact on their experience during the tests?
The impact of these improvements that we are going to make internally in a very comprehensive way. So these are things that we receive feedback from the community on, and we work internally to improve the development tools that we already have. And the result of this is a better delivery for the community as well. Not only better in the sense that we will bring a more optimized functionality, a more polished feature, but also in terms of speed. Because we work internally, improving the tools we are developing, all of our infrastructure is being optimized in the way we work. So the efficiency with which we develop and deliver things will also impact the time and frequency with which we will deliver this content, these new features, or even optimizations for our community.
I believe our faction system is also an example of how there is an AI behind it. It is an example of how we can still greatly improve the experience that the player will have. Improving this AI that accounts for the game's factions and their objectives, as well as how much they can expand. So there isn't much to improve yet. We also need to observe the AI acting within the game to see what its limits are.
Exactly. So there is a lot that depends on how players will interact, with the things in the world, with the features, with the functionalities. The example that Diego just gave about the faction is, I think, the biggest example we have today. It is a feature that is very important for Profane. The more the community interacts with that feature, the more effort we need to dedicate to providing the best possible experience with it. It goes back and forth there as we will engage with the community, which increasingly demonstrates the importance we place on the tests we want to bring.
Very cool. One thing I know we want to improve is the data collection aspect of Profane regarding what players are doing, what is working or not. So, why do we consider this an important aspect for future development?
This is one of the things that I actually consider to be one of the most important, especially when we are talking about testing, about making a version available for people to play. It is very difficult to evaluate the experience that the person is having there. So many times you have to draw on many resources, with many people needing to be together, analyzing the gameplay in real time. And that is why data is very important for us to reduce both the amount of time we have to do this and to have more tangible information to evaluate what is being used, what people like, what they do not like, what they are interacting with, and what they are likely not interacting with during the game. This is one of the essential things for us to be able to evaluate, measure, and also develop based on that. For that, we also need to have a data analysis, because just collecting data is not a process. It doesn't solve anything. We also need to have the ability to analyze this data, know what to do with it, and be able to transform it into things that will impact the community and bring benefits to everyone.
And also make it easier for players to provide feedback so that they can see something going wrong in the game and quickly open a little window to write about it. So this is something we had in the pre-alpha, and now we want to reintroduce it as well. The forum on our Discord is great. People talk about many things, and we set up a category system which turned out really nice. And we will be using that, but sometimes within the game, there needs to be a way for you to give immediate feedback on something you are seeing there, right? This is something we will also be concerned about bringing to the experience.
Very good. Do we already have a plan on how we will use this data in the development process? Will the community be able to see the impact of the data being collected?
We definitely should, right, Sarah? Because in order to really measure if what we're doing is positively changing the experience, we need to be very close to the community, seeing all the feedback that's being given and the data we're able to collect from the tests to see what aligns with what we expect to see from the experience of Profane, right? There might be something that is much more frustrating for some reason. We need to know and change things quickly and make it very clear to the community what we have altered in the patch notes system and everything so that people can see the amount of changes we will be making from one test to another. We will try to speed this up so every test has patch notes with some new things to be tested. And we will have a more dedicated team now for the tests. In the beginning, it was mostly me and Sarah handling the tests, but we will have more people from the development team closer to the tests, participating, observing them, and interacting more with the community so that we can really gather that valuable feedback we need to make the best decisions.
To achieve this, we will also have significant improvements in our internal processes. In addition to optimizing the part that goes to the community, we will also need to work on our process for how we handle this feedback. So, how are we going to analyze and evaluate the people who are there together consuming this? It is also a learning process for us. This is something we will focus heavily on in the coming months. We hope to achieve the results we want for the community more and more.
That's it. So, as you can see, there is a lot coming up, many plans and things we want to execute with you to improve the entire process of Profane. Before we wrap up, Diego and Eric, is there anything you would like to say to the community?
I want to tell everyone to come closer because we will be running more tests now and we will be able to bring content faster, so I think the tests are going to start getting more interesting. Unlike during the pre-alpha phase, we used to take a long time to add new content. Now we've made all the necessary changes to be able to introduce new content quickly and dynamically from test to test. So, come on everyone, because it's going to be awesome and we need your help.
So that's it, folks. We really count on your participation. It's an opportunity for both you and us as well. It is something we consider extremely important in our development. We want to be together. We want to hear what you have to say. We only have to gain from this. So, let's get this Profane launched and play together.
Well said, Eric. That's it, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions or anything you would like to add, leave a comment here. Or even better, come to our Discord, where we can chat closely with you. It's also where we make the announcements for the tests. That's it then, everyone. Thank you very much for your company here. See you soon, everyone. Bye-bye. Take care.